Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon, and I would like to start by saying all the people who ever said to me, hey, that is so beautiful. Can you teach me how to do that? Guess what? I'm going to teach you. It's very simple. It's very easy. It is also something that you do not learn overnight. So bear with me, and we will take it step by step. First, I'd like to show you the different yarns you can use and why you want to use certain yarns, and also the tools that you're going to be using. We're going to start with crochet. I'd like to eventually get into Tunisian crochet, which is with a very different kind of hook, and also, the old knitting. Knitting, I have saved for last, not because it's harder, because technically it isn't, but because once you have the crochet part down and you know how to hold your hook and you know how to hold your yarn and get your tension good, it's just a little bit easier to correct yourself in crochet than it is in knitting. But honestly, the knitting is 2 stitches and it's very, very simple. I think I'd like to start with the different kinds of yarns that you can use. First of all, this is thread. This is crochet thread. This would be for projects like that and the little mat that you see that is holding all of my cool little gadgets. This is the most important part of the label. The brand name can matter, but for the most part, you're going to look here. When you pick something up, you're going to see a little yarn ball on it. That yarn ball has a number in it. The numbers range from 0 to 6 and possibly higher than that. I've never gone higher than that. I have examples of 0, 3, 4, and 6 for you because those are the ones that I tend to use the most and have available to me. But that number right there is going to tell you pretty much what you can and cannot do with this particular yarn. Now, there's a caveat to this. You can make anything you want out of any size yarn you want as long as you have the correct hook size. Certain patterns are more forgiving than others when it comes to that, but I have made big blankets that look like doilies. And so technically, you could just scale that big blanket pattern that you like down with a different size hook and a different size yarn, and you're going to end up with a doily of that blanket pattern, or at least a smaller version, as long as you don't go too far in the rows. But we'll get to that later. Right now, you're going to see that there is a 0 on this. This is thread. It's literally crochet thread. It's how you make doilies. It's how you make certain, some people get cray-cray and make dresses and clothing, and that's really cool. That's definitely time-consuming and a little more advanced than what we're going to teach right now here. So you're going to see that label there. You're also going to see this. There are 2 numbers here. There's 7 and then 1.5 millimeters. That's your hook size. That's the size they're telling you to use when you use this particular yarn. Can you go up or down? Of course you can. You can pretty much do whatever you want. They come in a billion different colors. You have different hooks that you can play around with and figure out what works best for you. And no matter what you do, it's trial and error. If it doesn't work, pull it out and start again. You're not going to ruin anything. Just don't get cut happy, and anything you do can be undone. That's the perfect part of crochet. So if I pick this up and I see 1.5 millimeters, okay, a size 7, my particular kit, which I bought it was actually a gift, but I have bought these on Amazon. I only go down to a 2. That mine only goes to a 2. So could I use that too? You're darn tootin' I could. There's no reason why you can't. However, there are specific thread hooks, which I didn't bring out because I didn't think that through. However, it's just smaller than this one, and sometimes they don't have the gum rubber on them. So it makes them a little less comfortable to use. They look more like this one. This is a standard crochet hook. This is an H8 5mm. The reason this is important is because every yarn tells you which hook to use. You'll see the H and the 8. That is a US term. They do it differently in every country. So when you see a pattern, sometimes you'll see H8, sometimes you'll see 5mm. 5mm is what you're going to look for. You will also see, whoop, there goes that. Here's a good example. This is cotton. It is a size 4 weight, so that 0 would be a 4 on this one. This particular brand doesn't put it on there, but you know it's a 4 because it says US 8 5mm. 5 or 5.5mm hooks are almost always used for the medium 4-weight yarns. And you'll find that the 4-weight yarns are what you're going to want to stick with at the beginning. You could go a little bit higher and do a 5 or a 6, but the bulkier they are, the harder I find them to work with. You would think that they'd be easier because you can see it better, but not always, not always. So we're going to stick with the 4s when we do this. But there's your 0. That's a thread. The next size you're going to see is a 2. They have a 1, 2. I don't have those. Those are mostly for, I want to say fashion. This one is 2 for fashion. This is a 3-weight, and it requires a 4mm hook. I prefer the 4 or 4.5mm hook myself, but most people like the 5 or 5.5. On each yarn, you're going to want to try to stick, at least beginning, with the hook it tells you to use. So on this, I would use the 4mm hook. You see how much thicker it is than the thread? And that's literally just a 2, size difference. And then, of course, you have your 4. And again, you can see the difference in that particular sizing. There are differences in the yarn textures too, and different fibers that you can use. This big guy is a 6. Now this guy is great for big projects, but they only come in sizes like this. These little balls of yarn. You can call them a skein, you can call them a ball, whatever you want. This is polyester. I made fish out of this that my kids would dunk in water and throw at each other. They're great water balloons. They dry really quickly. You can put them in the wash, the machine wash and dry. And again, this one says 6.5mm hooks. Those hooks are large, and they're difficult for me to maneuver, but if you prefer them, try it. See what happens. And now on to our tools. So when you're doing a project, there are basic tools you're going to want. Obviously, you're going to want a hook or a kit of hooks. You can go on Amazon, Joann Fabrics, Michaels, Hobby Lobby. There are millions of different outlets online to buy things for decent money. They're not very expensive. This particular hook I got from my mom many, many years ago, and it's a Bowie hook. I find these difficult to use because I have a method to hold mine like this. Other people hold their hook like this, and that might be easier for them. But that's one kind of hook. Then you've got this kind, which is a little bit more ergonomic, hand-friendly. And I also have attempted this one. Now, one of the things that I will caution you with, any of the rubber covered hooks are eventually going to start wearing down, and you see they start looking gross and they peel off. They're inexpensive enough that for the most part, when they start wearing down, I just get rid of them. This one I didn't get rid of yet because I wanted to use it as an example. Also, a measuring tape. This comes in super duper crazy good handy when you're making any kind of clothing, and even a blanket or a washcloth, or it helps you keep measurements throughout your pattern if you need to. There's something that we're going to talk about later called gauge, and this will become really important for gauge. And again, these kits typically come with them. Also, a little set of snips or scissors. This particular one came with my kit. I have another one that I've been using for years, and guess what? They're school scissors for little kids. As long as you keep them sharp enough, they'll be fine. Then you'll also want needles, yarn needles. Yarn needles are for at the end of your project to weave in those ends. You see how this little guy is poking out here? When we finish this project, we're going to want to sew that in. Now, I am no sewer. I'm sure there's a better name for that, but I'm not great at it. My fingers get sore. I have some hand troubles when I do that. But yarn needles, especially these kind where you don't have to thread it too difficult, you can just pop it right through. Pop it in, get to sewing. This is the wrong size for this one, but you get my point. You pop it in, you sew it through the little stitches here, and you're good to go. These are important because at the end you are going to need to sew in your ends. And the trick is to figure out how to do that quickly and efficiently. And when you let me know, please tell me when you find out. There are many different cool little gadgets that you can use. These are all stitch markers. What they can do effectively, not that one, is hold on to your work. So I need to take a break. I have stopped here. I don't want to do any more right now. I have to stop. So this little guy here is my loose stitch. That's my little guy who needs help. I just pop this into the stitch, close it up. It's not going to pull apart. You can pull this thing until you break it. It's not going to pull out my stitches. So those things are super duper handy. And they come in many varieties, and they're really inexpensive too. It can get expensive if you start getting too crazy about buying all the little nicks and nats. You know, if you start getting out of control with the buying, like I did at one point, it can get a little expensive. For the most part, you're paying for these things once or until you've used them and got your money's worth. And then you'll end up maybe buying another set. Maybe not. It depends on how much you do. At this point, I would like to just thank you for checking me out and listening to my babbling and rambling on. And the next video, what I'd like to do is begin a little tutorial showing you how to begin with the crochet. We are going to end up using cotton, because for me, cotton is an easy way to learn. It's just thicker. Most of them don't split really bad. We have another kind of cotton here. One's a little rougher than the other. You can, feel your way, feel it out, figure out which one you want to use. And these guys are like $1.97, $1.99, anywhere you go. You can even pick these up at Walmart or I'm not sure where else. Michael's and Joann's and Hobby Lobby is where I got this one. These are two of the most popular brands out there, and because they're not pricey. This particular one's $3.29, but I find them on sale all the time. Along with this guy is the least expensive, and if you're just beginning a new project with me, I suggest that you pick up the least expensive cotton. Make sure that it's a 4 weight. And then you can also pick up your preference of a 5mm hook. They will either go by H8 or 5mm. So next time, that's what we're going to work on. I was thinking about doing some chaining and learning how to begin and going from there. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few minutes, and I hope you have a great day.